Welcome to Complete Edition, the podcast between a PlayStation Trophy Hunter and an Xbox Achievement Hunter. This is episode 3. I'm your host, Compulsive Nerd, also Cole. I am joined by AJ.
Hey,
And we didn't record last week, AJ. And how have you been, dude? Feels like forever. Feels like forever.
yeah, it's been stressful. The reason we didn't record last week was because my PC basically exploded. So what like I've had my PC since like 2014, so it's lasted 7 years, which is it's okay. But since November, I've been getting like blue screen to death occasionally. I originally fixed it by rolling back some drivers, but over time, there's just like more and more issues and more things going wrong. So I'm pretty sure the hardware was broken, and it was one of those like pre-built PCs where you can't really do much like internal tinkering, or it's more difficult. So last week, I think it was Wednesday or Thursday, 3 times in a day I got blue screens, and after each time, it was like the computer would only stay on for less and less time. And all of them were different errors as well. It was giving me different error codes, so it was like as soon as I try and fix one thing, it's like another thing breaks. So I basically gave up at that point. The third time, after trying to boot the third time, it had to try and repair the drive as well, the hard drive. So I like quickly just got everything onto a USB that I needed, like all my documents and stuff, all of my memes and all that, everything I wanted to keep, and then just unplugged the PC and worked from my laptop and ordered new parts.
Did you build an entire new PC, or did you kind of rip apart your old one and replace parts?
I built an entirely new one, like
Oh,
a complete
shit.
fresh start.
How much did that set you back?
It was about £1,400
Oh
ish.
my god.
So yeah, like I just didn't want to deal with the old PC, and it was like I was prepared to buy a new one since November, and like this was just it. It was like the final straw. I'm just getting everything, and I have a friend of mine that's like really good at because I've never done a build before, but a friend of mine has done tons of them, and he knows like more about computer hardware than me. I know like a little. And so yeah, we got a list of components, and then we ordered them, and they arrived really quickly. They arrived on the weekend, and we went and assembled it all, and I'm really really happy with it so far. I'm still like nervous it's all gonna fall apart at some point, but I've tested, I've ran like benchmarks, I've got all the drivers, I've checked all the thermals, and I've got like sensors on all the components, and stuff like IQ just looks at it, and it looks like it's fine, and it looks like everything's working, and yeah, it's like it's such an improvement. Like I got an SSD for it. I've had a mechanical hard drive in my old PC, and so that's just been amazing. And like the RAM I've got is actually fast and good this time. And I we managed to find a 3070 graphics card.
Holy shit.
So yeah, so I've got that going. So yeah, it's been awesome. I've been playing CS:GO at like max settings, and I get like 400 FPS on it. So
Jesus.
it's ridiculous. And it makes aiming so much easier in that game, like to have a high frame rate. I used to get on my old PC, I used to get like hitches and stutters when I was close to smoke grenades because of all like the alpha effects and stuff going on. And the game on my old PC ran at like 20 to 40 FPS on like pretty low settings. So it's like totally the opposite end of the spectrum in terms of how that game runs. I know, CS:GO came out in like 2013. It's not obviously my PC can handle, more than that, but I just play CS so often that I'm so familiar with it that like I notice all the small details and like how different it is. But yeah, I need to like download Flight Simulator or something and just give my PC a test. But yeah, it's been great, but very stressful as well. Like last week, and just dealing with a nightmare. But it's hopefully over now.
I would hope so. Having a new
Yeah,
PC, I was on the same thing. Like as soon as we started recording the show, like the week after, I was like, I need new components, and yours is a lot more for gaming and mine's a lot more for editing. But yeah, dude, I was running the same as you. I had a hard drive, and now I have an SSD, and I got new RAM, and I got a new motherboard, and like just the SSD alone has like really helped rendering, and just my PC is so much, it boots up so much faster, it runs programs much faster. I'm just like, oh dude, this is night and day, night and day.
Oh yeah, it's great as well. I've got I really like how the case looks, and I really like. I mean, it's such like a nerdy thing to say. I really like the airflow, and that they've got like I've got like 6 fans, and then I've got like a liquid CPU cooler as well. So it's
Yeah,
like
dude.
it's just like a worry of like my old computer used to overheat all the time, and then like over time it got like dusty, and then it's like even worse. So just to have that like reassurance, and like I can check every individual like the RPM of the fans and the temperatures, and it's like it's just so much. I don't know. It's just such a relief to have it all sorted. So
Yeah, and you said you were living in like a hot place, and here it's been so fucking hot. I think it's 100 degrees today, Fahrenheit,
Jesus.
and it's so hot. And like I'm lucky that my apartment stays cool. But are you still like watching the temperatures, even though it's like warm where you are, or like hot in your apartment?
Yeah, it's been pretty hot here. I mean, obviously, I'm in the UK, so it's not, I'm not in like Egypt or
Right.
anywhere that gets, but like some weeks get like a little hot, but it's more specifically that my room gets really hot. It's quite a small room, so if I've got a lot of electronics on, it heats up. And then also it's like right next to like a hot water tank is in like the next room, and it's above the kitchen, and it's like under the floor there's like a bunch of pipes as well that carry hot water. So basically my room just like is like a nexus for like getting hotter than it gets even outside.
Christ.
So yeah, it's always been a concern, and I used to have my PC on carpet as well, which obviously wasn't a good idea. So I've got it on like a plank of wood now.
Mine's still on carpet. I definitely need to get it off the carpet. And I try to clean it often because I know that being on carpet it's gonna pull in dust. But my desk is not set up for a tabletop PC. So if I put it up here, it would eliminate all space on my desk. I wouldn't even know where to put
Yeah,
my microphone. Like,
yeah, it's the same for me. I can't fit it on my desk. There's no way. So yeah, I've just got like a plank of wood on the floor, and it's better than carpet. But
yeah.
yeah, there's like a huge dust filter there's like huge ventilation all across the top of the case, and then there's like a dust filter, magnetic dust filter on top, and all this, and it's like it's so much better than my old one. My old one just had like a slab of metal, like with no ventilation on the top, and just like tiny vents on the side and the back, and yeah, and it's so cool because there's like a piece of glass on the side where you can just see in like all the internal components, and it should be better for upgrading, and for if something breaks, hopefully I'll be able to just replace the individual component instead of having to like get a whole new PC. So yeah, it feels a lot better.
Like once your PC was down, I went to Iowa and I went to see some family. I was planning to do it anyways, but like as soon as it happened, I was like, "Oh, the stress is off my plate right now," because I was gonna have to edit while I was there, and I was like, "Oh, hey, here's what I'll do," and like I played games like on the go. I played it in the car on the car ride. It was like a 5 hour ride, but I started to develop like a bad habit where playing the game, I kept falling asleep. I was playing Persona 4 Golden, and I got to really good stuff. Like I'm really excited with where the story is going, but I was falling asleep, and I would play it occasionally, but most nights I was out partying, dude, until like 3 a.m. Like I was so exhausted when I came back from that trip that I didn't even game for like a couple days after that. It was just exhausting. I definitely want to do it again because that was like a really fun family trip and a catch up that I haven't been able to do in a long time. It's supposed to be bigger next year, but after like the pandemic is weird. It's so weird to be out again.
Yeah, it feels odd returning to normal because
Yeah.
the pandemic stuff was just normal for so long. But yeah, like you say, I mean, I get that too, where like you can get. I think the way that we play games, because we like focus on like achievements and like challenging ourselves and trophies and stuff, it can like gaming can actually like it can like take it out of you. It's like less. It's more active than like watching YouTube or like watching Netflix or like whatever. So it can like if you're like super exhausted, it's like I can't focus on a game. I have to just do something like more relaxing. So yeah, I can definitely empathize with that.
Yeah. And then do you have any more to say about your past two
No, I
weeks?
think That's the most exciting stuff for
Yeah,
sure.
very
How have your weeks been?
Good. I mean, like I said, I went to Iowa and then I came back and my cousin, so I'm living in a 2-bedroom apartment and my cousin has been on an internship for 2 months, so I've been living alone and he is back officially. And it's been really awesome having a roommate again. Like this morning we went out and we went grocery shopping and like we've been having dinner together and it's just like it's a totally different experience than living by myself cuz like I feel like all the food that I bought now won't go to waste and it's really nice having company. I still like to shut myself away and play video games, but I mean like it's such a different dynamic. And
Yeah.
that's like how the other half of the 2 weeks went where I just have been like trying to get back to gaming and everything. But yeah, and like this morning I saw some breaking news from The Verge and they were talking about the PS5 beta test stuff like for the UX, and I saw some stuff in there that I was like, oh my god, this is actually topical and really nice. So they're adding some options to the control center, which is like when you press the button one time, it pulls up like a quick menu that you can go through and you can like look at your Wi-Fi if it cuts out, or you can like go to your friends list, or you can, it's just a quick menu to get to. And they're like finally adding the option to not just add things, but you can rearrange them and then you can add like vertical or horizontal. And they are also adding like a new trophy tracker to that quick menu of the control center, and you can track up to 5 trophies at the same time. And I think that's fucking awesome. They already do this thing with the trophy cards where when you pull it up, it shows the trophies that you're closest to and some stuff that you want to go for. So this morning I actually popped a trophy because I was playing Watch Dogs Legion, and I just gotten a new character with their occupation was a professional hitman, and one of the trophies popped up and was like, do 5 stealth takedowns with a professional hitman. And I'm like, look at that, I'm playing as a professional hitman. It throws a trophy that I could attempt right now. So I was like, boom, and I knocked that one out this morning. It was a silver trophy and I'm like, fuck yeah, let's go. So the more I play today, the more I'll probably like switch things up and knock out more trophies as I play. It's really nice and really fun.
That's cool. That's that on Xbox they've got like you can choose where you can have it like on an overlay on the screen, like your nearest achievements in a game, or you can like manually select like if let's say you like start a game and you're like I remember there's some games where you like worry about collectibles not tracking. I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but there's some games where it's like sometimes you like pick one up and it doesn't register, but you can go down the list and you can like basically pin that achievement tracker to your screen so that like as you do stuff it like ticks up and like that you've got it. So it's sort of like a similar thing where you can sort of mess around with the UI to get it to sort of focus some achievements or the achievements that you're closest to or that you're progressing towards. So that's a really cool feature.
All the PlayStation trophy hunters out there that are listening, they're just like a little bit boiling on the inside because we have struggled for so fucking long with no collectible trackers at all. Like every trophy is just a blank page and like you are trying to get the collectibles, and like in Infamous I fucking made like I took a image of a map, I put it in Paint, and I went through the map, and every time I got one, I went over to my computer and I marked it out on Paint, like collectibles, because I don't know how many I have. Like, you don't know how many you have on PlayStation. Xbox is so lucky to have fucking tracking where it's like 40 out of 60. Like, PlayStation just doesn't have that shit, and it sucks, but they're catching up with PS5 and they're finally adding it, and more games need to fucking do that, because, man, it is a nightmare. It's a nightmare. Like, just like you said, when you pick something up, and you don't even know if it registers or not. Like, it's
I mean, collectibles are a nightmare in some games just because, like, if you either miss one or one doesn't track, and it's like massive open world games where, like, if you don't mark it off, like you mentioned, you can just go. You like basically have to go through every single collectible again to like try to find the one that you missed. Like, it's the
amount of times
it's nightmare fuel. Yeah. It's not good, but yeah, that's great.
Yeah, and that's really it. Like, I signed up for that beta this morning, but I haven't gotten any emails back. Once I do, I'm gonna fucking jump on it because I want to be able to rearrange things and like, you know, it's early access, so there's gonna be bugs and stuff, but eventually it'll roll out for everyone. So even if I don't become part of the beta, I'm like looking forward to this a lot. Let's talk about what we've been chasing, dude. Oh my god, 2 weeks worth. That's gonna be. I feel like it's a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot for sure. Should I start?
Yeah, you
Or
go ahead and
you,
start, and then like I think this will work really well with like how I came up with the topic on the table for this episode. So you'll go, and then I'll be running through my games, and I'll like kind of put you in the mindset that I was at whenever I started thinking about some of this stuff. It's really interesting, and I can't wait to like dive deep into that.
Okay, cool. Yeah, there's basically two games that I've been chasing. So the first one is Darkest Dungeon again. So now finally I'm on my final playthrough.
Yes.
So I have played 116 hours of this game now. So it's not that it's not that over the weeks I've been like playing like, oh, I've just played like 4 hours and I'm taking forever. No, I've been grinding this game. It just takes like such a long time. So I've beaten the game on normal now. I've done all of the final quests. And then from there was this DLC called The Color of Madness. And it has this mode called Endless Harvest, and there's an achievement which is possibly the hardest in the game. It's got the lowest unlock percentage, and it's to kill 300 enemies in that mode. And so the way the mode works is you have to do like successive battles over and over again with no pauses, and then after you do like 4 battles or so, you get transported to a room where you get like a random object that might heal you or let you camp or reduce your stress. And then afterwards you have more battles, and then you get a boss fight after that. And the first 2 bosses are the same, and then from there it's random bosses. So you basically fight battles in a row, get a few breaks, fight more battles, fight a boss, then get another break, and then get more battles. And you have to keep going as long as you can. And as you go, there's modifiers that are like placed against you, and they stack up against you like more and more. Like the further you go on, the more difficult it becomes. So you take more damage, enemies do more crits, they have more armor, they become faster. So getting a run that kills 300 enemies, you have to basically do like 5 or 6 bosses, and they can be random bosses. You can get like the hardest boss in the game twice in a row, and it's like such bullshit. You're just like, what the fuck? Like what am I supposed to do here? Or you can get like one of the easiest bosses. You could get like one of the easiest bosses 3 times. So you need good luck. You need to have like a really good roster of heroes. And what's really annoying about it is that when it goes wrong, it can go wrong really, really quickly. Like you could just get like crit, like an enemy could just do a crit on you twice in a row, and then you're just dead. Like that's it. Before you even get to act again. And I remember on my first attempt, well, no, actually it was my third attempt, I think. On my third attempt, I got to 286, and then died, and I was like, oh no, because by that point I'd played for like 2 to 3 hours. Like that run was like 3 hours long, and then I had to restart all over again. Yeah, so that took me a few days on its own. I eventually got that achievement, but that's what I've been doing. So now, like, I've done the DLC, I've beaten the main game on normal. So the last thing I have to do is I need to beat the game on the hardest difficulty. It's called Blood Moon, and the way it works is you can actually fail the game on this difficulty. You can't on any other difficulty. So you have 16 lives, and you have a time limit of 100 weeks. And so if too many of your characters die, or you run out of weeks, you have to start the entire game over again. And this game can be like 20 to 40 hours, so it's not great. So it's something where like you basically have to, unless you're like an absolute god and you like learn super quickly, you basically want to play the first time on normal just to understand and learn the game before you attempt this, because otherwise you'll just keep bouncing off of it. Like if you tried to do the hardest difficulty first, you will like fail like 10 hours in and then fail like 12 hours in and you'll just not get anywhere. But on top of all of that, the enemies have 20% more health. They have a 3% higher chance to get a critical hit on you. They deal more stress damage. Your torches go down faster. So yeah, it's really brutal. And also, I'm playing through the Crimson Court DLC during this playthrough, which adds a new curse. It adds a new area and a bunch of new bosses. And I haven't beaten all of that content yet, so I'm doing that while playing. It adds some variety to it and makes it less frustrating, although it does make it a little bit more difficult. I've had a couple of attempts and like restarted and failed early on. Like the way I've been playing it is I play quite risky at the start because like if you mess up, you've not lost that much progress compared to if you play it like too safe, you might get behind the curve of the game and then you'll just be in a state where you like can't keep up and you don't have enough resources and then the game just like bleeds you out. So I play quite risky at the start because it's like if my characters die, then I'll just restart. Like it's 2-3 hours of lost time instead of like 15 hours of lost time. So I've had a few false starts, but yeah. So I'm still working on that. So hopefully this is it. Like I can see the light at the end of the tunnel.
I'm cheering for you.
Yeah, it's really tough, but I'm really enjoying it. And then so the second thing I've been chasing, I was fortunate enough to be sent a code for The Ascent, which has come out today. So I've been playing that this week. I've played about 5 hours of the game, and I think I'm about 40% through the game. It's been really strange because this is the first time I've ever been ahead of a review embargo. Like I've got like a press code for the game, and like I'm not allowed. Yeah, I'm not allowed to talk about it until today, obviously. And then it's been quite difficult to not say anything.
Can I ask you something about it?
Yeah.
So
sure.
I watched a trailer this morning after you mentioned it. So that was like the very first time I had heard about it, and I got to see that it kind of looks like a strategy game. It's a like isometric. Is that the right term? Third person shooter?
Yeah, so it's the way I describe it is it's an isometric twin stick shooter action RPG in a cyberpunk setting.
It looks so
the way to
good, dude. The graphics on that fucking game, I cannot like on your new PC, are you like astounded? Does it look really good?
Yeah, it's so the guys at Curve Digital and they sent us they sent me and Maka codes for it, and they sent me a Steam code and an Xbox code, so that was really cool because I've just got it on my PC and I've got it on my Xbox. Yeah, the game looks beautiful. Like the art style is great, and the environments are so dense, like with characters and stuff going on in the background and like vehicles moving around in that like cyberpunk, that Blade Runner style. Like where it's like such like a bustling metropolis that's just like so densely populated. It gets the style perfect, basically, in terms of the visuals. And yeah, I'm really enjoying it so far. I think I've had about 2 play sessions of the game, so I've played for about 5 or 6 hours. And the first time I played, I'd say I'd give it like, I don't know, like a 6 out of 10 experience, and then the second time a 7 out of 10. So it's a game that has been getting better the more I understand it, and the more like I understand the world, and as I unlock more abilities and weapons and can switch it up, all that stuff is great. I think the combat is really fun. There's like this mechanic where you can shoot over cover, and so you can hide behind cover and then like shoot over it, or you can like run around and run and gun like in like a twin stick style, and different enemies will counter like either of those strategies. Like the enemies that like shoot at you as like sharpshooter types, they will, like, if you don't take cover, they can just wreck you. Like they'll just track you and you can barely dodge them. But then all the melee guys will rush you if you try and stay behind cover. So you have to be really like flexible and use both styles of
balance.
Play. Yeah, it's really cool. And yeah, the weapons are really satisfying. Like all the assault rifles and shotguns feel weighty, and then I've got like an automatic rocket launcher now and an energy pistol, and yeah, so it's like getting crazier and crazier as I play more.
Is this multiplayer or single player? How are you playing?
Yeah, so it's single player, but it's also got co-op, and I've not tried any of the co-op because when I was playing, the game wasn't out, and
Right.
I didn't really know people with it. But yeah, I've heard the co-op is good. I know some people have said in the reviews today that like don't bother playing it solo, like it's way better in co-op. But I find it fun solo. I think it's fine. I assume it's great co-op as well. It looks like the type of game that would be really good co-op, sort of like a Borderlands style experience where like you can just tell when you're playing it, like, oh, this would be really fun in co-op. But it's great solo. There's like these really cool tactical abilities. Like I was able to get this ability that marks enemies, and then when you kill those marked enemies, they like blow up like a balloon and then explode and like pop. And that explosion deals tons of AoE damage to other enemies. So it's been great to like when you fight a boss to mark their like fodder like ads enemies, and then like you can mark them and then kill them next to the boss, and it'll just do so much damage to the boss. So like instead of directly shooting the boss, you're like shooting his minions and blowing them up next to it. It's like it's got like cool strategic like RPG depth in that sense, because
That's really
you could have like completely different abilities to me, and yeah, and it works really well. But also, I wanted to say, so in terms of achievements and trophies,
Yes. What I was
when
gonna ask you about.
yeah, when I got the game, the achievement list wasn't live or accessible, and we didn't get sent a copy of it. So basically, when you go on like the guide, it says the game doesn't have achievements, even though it does. And when you do the requirements for the achievements do unlock. So like I was getting achievements, but I couldn't see what the list was while I was playing. So it's like you're totally blind while you're playing, and you don't know how to unlock them, but you are unlocking them. So I've never experienced that before. The list is out now, and it doesn't look like I've missed anything, which is good. But it was awkward because it's like I don't know if I'm doing. There might be like an achievement to like in like the first level to like talk to this NPC or something that's hidden, and I'd have no idea, right, that achievement even exists. But it seems to be an easy completion. But yeah, you get a lot of achievements naturally, and the list seems fine.
Yeah, so that's so interesting. I'm like really curious if you were gonna chase this completion of the Ascent. Is that the right name?
Yeah, I think so. I wasn't sure. I mean, again, it's difficult. It was difficult to commit to it because
You didn't know.
I was going in without the list.
You
Yeah,
were blind as hell.
but the list seems fine. I'll probably go for it. There's so many games that are coming out now that I want to play, along with like games in my backlog that I don't know if I'll go for the full completion right away, or if I'll just go for like beating the main story and getting like 700 points or something.
Okay.
But I definitely want to play more of it for sure. The completion seems manageable.
Do you know, this is something interesting because I think it could be really fun for you and me. Do you know if there's like cross-platform support? Because I could buy the game on Steam, and I don't like achievement hunt on Steam. I just kind of play games there. So while you're achievement hunting, we could try to co-op together as our first game. It'd be really fun. But
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I don't know how the cross-platform play works, because I know the game is on Game Pass on Xbox and on Windows, but is also on Steam. So I'm not sure. So we have options, definitely.
We
But,
do.
yeah, I don't. Yeah, it's not on PlayStation. It's one of those like third-party Game Pass sort of Xbox
That's really cool.
exclusive things.
That's really cool because the game is just fucking baller, dude. I mean, obviously I don't know the reviews and I haven't played it, but I was just looking at the trailers and I was like, I'm in the mood for that, and
Yeah,
it looks beautiful, unbelievably beautiful.
Yeah, I'd say I'm at like a 7 out of 10 for it right now. I think it's been getting mixed reviews. I've seen it's interesting because I saw Skill Up today. He reviewed it and he loves it. Like his title is like I strongly recommend The Ascent, and I know ACG Carrick, he also loves it. He thinks it's amazing. And then there's some people that are giving it like a 6, like a 5. I saw Metro, the UK newspaper. They gave it a 3 out of 10, which
Holy
is
shit.
a little ridiculous to me, and that's dragging down the Metacritic score on the Series X version now, because they didn't, in my opinion, they didn't explain their opinion very well in that review, because they were saying like, oh yeah, the graphics are great, the gameplay is like okay, and then they're like 3 out of 10, and it's like what, like surely you've said. Like I understand saying it's mediocre and then giving it like a 5, but a 3 seems a bit I
That's
don't know, a bit
so low.
ridiculous.
That's like broken. 3 is broken. Like it doesn't work.
Yeah, yeah,
What
definitely.
the
So
fuck?
so that was puzzling, but the reception seems like from critics it seems to be getting like mostly like sevens and like some sixes and then like a couple of like eights and like nines and like strongly like recommends from people like Skill Up. But yeah, I'm definitely enjoying it, and it was so cool and so weird to get a game early like that.
Dude, I love whenever like new releases come out and they look really good, and I'm like, oh dude, I'm so interested in that. And this is like so much more interesting because then you're talking, from your perspective about playing it early and no achievements and like all of this going together. Like I was just like enthralled by that whole conversation because like I said, I watched that trailer and I was interested. It's like I think I'm in the mood for that right now. Like, do you ever like look at a video game and you're like, oh, I didn't know that I wanted to play an isometric third-person twin stick shooter, but that's what I want to do right now. And so I was looking at it, I was
Yeah.
like, that looks baller.
Yeah, it's definitely it's a genre where like there's not that many games as well. Like I remember I feel like the last one that I actually played other than like roguelikes, which a lot of them are like top down or like isometric, but in terms of like that type of game, I remember there was that like Lara Croft game ages ago, like it was like an Xbox 360 arcade game, and that's like one of the last ones that I remember playing.
So
So I guess like Dead Ops Arcade and like Black Ops Cold War and some of the Black Ops games, but it feels so rare to see that genre of game. So yeah, it was like a breath of fresh air in that sense.
whole ass generation ago, that was the last time I played one of those, and it was Dead Nation. I don't know if you've heard of that, but it's
Yeah, yeah, great game.
very fun, very fun. But that's the last one I played, and just seeing it, I was like, this is like Dead Nation. I was like, let's go. Let's go. But is that it for your games?
Yeah, yeah, that's everything I've been playing.
Okay.
We talked about Counter Strike as well with my PC, and
Right.
that's pretty much it.
Right. Yeah, you were testing that with your new PC. All right, I guess I'll kind of roll into mine, and I played a little bit of Persona 4 Golden. Actually, a lot. I probably got another 10 to 20 hours in, which is really good. That's really good, especially in a very long like 90-hour normal campaign, and then I'll be replaying it to platinum it, trying to. I don't know if I will. But yeah, I had a lot of fun running 2 dungeons, and I got further in the story, which I'm at a point in the story where I am hooked. I'm actually stuck on a boss right now. I can't wait to play it again. Did you ever like this happened to me. So I was driving home from work, and the entire time I'm thinking like I'm strategizing. I'm like, what could I do? What party members could I
Oh
use?
yeah,
Like what party members could I use? What kind of abilities? I was like, I wonder what kind of items, because I know that I need to use like this magic item. I was like, I wonder how many I have. I'm just like sitting there in the car, and I'm thinking about this game while I'm driving. It's fucking like that's when it's got its hooks in you, and you're thinking
yeah,
about
that's
it.
that exact same situation has basically been happening to me with Darkest Dungeon, because you choose like your party members, and then you choose like the trinkets to like equip everyone with, and like the equipment you bring out on a mission, and like I'm always thinking like, oh shit, like I've got this boss fight next, and like I know how to deal with it, but it's like, should I take like a marking party, or should I take like a blight focus party, and like, oh, I'm gonna equip this trinket on this guy, and then you think about it so much that you're like, I just want to play because I really want to test it out. Like I want to see how it actually works. So yeah, like 100%. I totally get what you're saying.
Absolutely, yeah, exactly. Well, so that's one thing. I was playing that on the go during my vacation. After we finished recording the Resident Evil 8 spoiler cast, like I'd say 4 or 5 hours after, I platinumed Resident Evil 8. So it was very short, 5 hours after
Nice.
recording, and I was done. I was done with the
Hell
game.
yeah.
I don't think I deleted it, which is pretty rare because usually I beat it and delete it. Like that's my thing. Just beat it, delete it, move on. But yeah, I finished that. I would say like my platinum go for this game is an 8.5. I gave it the point 0.5, like the little boost, because on Mercenaries you only have to get an S rank instead of the max, which is SSS, and I think that is brilliant when doing a trophy list. It isn't making you get the max, but it is testing your skills and challenging you. I think that's
Yeah,
brilliant.
for sure.
Like,
Yeah,
just
yeah. No, I agree. We talked about it in the spoiler cast. Yeah,
yes.
that they leave you some room for error is good.
And dude, this is kind of funny behind the scenes stuff, but I was telling you on the Resident Evil episode, I cut out part of my audio and I re-recorded it because I was editing and I heard myself say, I downloaded the Resident Evil 7 DLC. I can't wait to play as Yuffie. And I was like,
Oh no.
I was like, that's wrong. So if you listen to the episode, you'll just hear like, it's almost impossible to hear, but I cut it and I was like, Final Fantasy VII Remake DLC, and it like flows right into I can't wait to play with Yuffie. And I was like, fuck yeah, I feel proud for doing that.
Well, everyone's gonna know now because you've just said it in the podcast.
Exactly. It's a little bit behind the scenes. It's fun. If you listen to the episode, you didn't notice. You know? I know it. So, yeah, I played this Yuffie DLC. I finished it. I 100%ed it. And this is kind of where the topic on the table starts to creep into my mind. Okay? So, I am loving this DLC. I actually want to talk about all of it. Okay, number one, I teared up during this DLC. I got very attached to my characters because they have in Final Fantasy VII Remake, they have like a VR simulation where you can fight bosses and it's just a simulation. So it just throws the boss into this giant arena and you get to try to take it down. And doing it like on the hard difficulty is really hard, but I started my first run on easy because I just wanted to get more story. I was behind on the story and I was really ready to get through, and so I played it on easy. I got all the collectibles. I really enjoyed it. I got to learn who like Yuffie was and everything like that because I never played Final Fantasy VII original, and you know that's a disclaimer. But I still fucking love this game. I think it's really great.
Do you think that you will go back to Final Fantasy VII?
I have it on my Vita, so yeah, probably.
Cool.
I think it'll be fun. I definitely can say I probably ruined it for myself, but you know, at least I'm having fun with one of the games, and I'll probably have fun with the other one too. I always love just playing video games, new, old, I don't care. There's very few games that I hate, and like again, I'm not gonna shit too hard on it, but I mean, I really didn't like Halo Combat Evolved. It just isn't there for me, and I hate Dead Rising. Fucking hate that game. I think it's terrible. One of the worst games I ever played. I tried to complete it, and I just gave up. I was like, fuck this. I'm done. I can't do it anymore. I can't. Running
7-Day Survivor is one of the hardest achievements.
Yeah.
Ever. Yeah. So it's really hard. I still don't have it, but I want it. I actually do like Dead Rising, so I should go for it.
And another game I hate is Destiny. I think I went into it.
Yeah, Destiny sucks.
Destiny does suck. And I mean, like, I went into the very first one thinking it was going to be like this really good graphic Halo game, like, or not Halo. I thought it was going to be really good graphics Borderlands type of game where you're running planet to planet and you're doing these fun missions with your friends, and then it just was garbage. There's no substance to it. It was all, I know people love video games for gameplay, but it was all
good. Yeah, the raids are good.
That's the thing is, like, I don't like raiding because I don't like to sit down for a video game and do one thing for a couple hours and maybe not get anything in return because you could fail. And that's like, for me, that's not worth the risk and the reward. Like, especially because I don't really play multiplayer games. So I just don't like Destiny. I think there's an audience there, or I don't think there is an audience there. There are people that like it, but it's just like, there's very few games that I just can't touch and I don't want to play, and that's what I was trying to say. So I think when I go back to play Final Fantasy VII, the old one, the original, I think I'm going to like it. Like, that's 3 games I gave to you that I don't like. And I've played a fuck ton of games, like over 200. So it's very rare that I play something and I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not. I don't like it. So I'm excited for that.
Although two of the 3 are like considered like pretty loved games by people. They are. You know, it's not like the 3 that you gave me were like Ride to Hell, Retribution, Balan, Wonderworld,
Black Tiger.
Yeah, exactly, right. So there is I guess some worry of that because
right.
You know, if you don't like Combat Evolved, then like no game is safe, you know, at that point.
Right.
You know.
It's true, no game is safe. And like my best friend, he does not like indies really. And the only indies I've ever got him to play that he loved was Limbo and Inside, both made by the same company, Playdead. I think that's right. And I'm always trying to get him to dip his toes into indies because I think that that's a gaming market that a lot of people don't look at, but I think that they're missing out because it's a beautiful little place. you know, just to get games. And like that, once I expanded into indies, like playing indie games, that's whenever my gaming taste really evolved and like opened up. And so back to Final Fantasy VII Remake, because I'm going on a totally bad tangent. Yes, I will go back and play the original Final Fantasy VII. I don't know when, but I will. And I got all the collectibles on Final Fantasy VII Remake, the Yuffie Intermission DLC, and then there was this fun fucking game inside the game. So they added like a mini game where you can play all the characters that you met, not all the characters, but a lot of the characters that you met in the base Final Fantasy VII Remake game. And I was like, oh, so I can play this little board game with them, and I'm gonna do it. But the board game turns out to be this strategy. It's just a miniature strategy game. Each side you have infantry, swords, you have archery, bows, and then you have like this shield type of enemy. And it's set up in a triangle, so the archers are strong to, or the shields are strong to the sword, so the sword can't do much damage against the shield, and then the sword is strong against the archer if it can make it there, and the archer is strong against the shield. And so every time the opponent plays a character, they start to march to the other side, and it's like there's 3 towers of defense. So you have like a king in the middle, and then you have 2 like queens on the side, but they're just birds. But like they're marching. I don't know what kind of game this is. It's just a strategy game. So you try to get your forces to the other side to take down the health of the king and the 2 queens. And I just was fucking having a blast with this game. It's called Fort Condor. And like I said, every time they put down something, I would just counter it with one of the things that would counter it. And I would go right through it and get to the other side. But on hard mode, it was so much more tough. But I mean, I was having a blast with that little game. I think you only had to beat maybe 6 or 7 characters. So it wasn't like it took up a ton of time. But it was fun to get stuck and be like, all right, what cards am I going to switch out so that I can get like different infantry characters? Because you'd have an elite commander or a regular commander, or you'd have like a flying elite trooper or like a normal flying trooper. And I always got the cards to get the elites, and I would put them in. But I started to struggle, and I was like, I'll flip these cards in and out, try to mess with my strategy. And then you could also look at your enemy's board, and you could like know what you could put down so that will counter it better. So always strategy. And I finished that on easy, and then you go into hard, and it's just harder, so much harder. But it's really nice because when you beat it all the Fort Condor players, and you become the Grandmaster, you get the Grandmaster board, and that gives you a bunch of advantages. I'm not going to go into it because it's pretty deep strategy, but I used that Grandmaster board on my New Game Plus hard mode. So playing on New Game Plus, it was still difficult, but it was not as hard as it would have been if I just started on hard and like tried to get the base boards to beat these fucking ridiculously strong boards. And so I did that, and then I beat the game, and I freaking loved it. And then there was 2 fucking trophies. And this is where it happened. 2 silver trophies. Very ultra rare, okay? On PSN, this one of the bosses inside of the virtual arena that I was telling you about is the trophy percentage is 2.8% of players have gotten this. And on the other one, it's 2.6. Oh man, I almost gave up on that one, on the other boss. But I'm sitting there, and I think it took me a total 8 to 10 hours to beat both of these bosses. And I started to think while I was sitting there, I looked up a bunch of different videos, a bunch of different like character builds, how to beat these fucking bosses. And one of them was like, I fucking did it pretty easily after about 3 hours, and I got a really good build. And I was like, all right, that wasn't bad. But I still was like pulling my hair out, pounding my head against the wall. I was like, Jesus Christ. Like, I want you to know, like, these boss fights, they go for like 4 minutes, 5 minutes. And then I just got so fucking shredded. It was like I was doing these boss fights, and they had a time limit, and then the boss would do an ultimate move that kills everyone on the field. So I was like, I have to do all of this damage in a short amount of time in order to get them before they fucking annihilate everyone. And it's just game over. I was even using items that would preserve one of the characters so that they would have 1 life left, like reprieve. And so then I could raise another character, and then they would die, and then I would raise them back, and I was like, all right, we're good. But then the boss is just more powerful. So they're just like fucking out there swinging, and I'm trying to heal. It was so much. And I'm like, when do I give up on this? When am I gonna fucking stop? Like, can I do this? And I just kept, I kept going one more video, one more strategy guide, one more something to try to help me out. And eventually I got them both. And I think the final boss that I beat, I can't say the name. I think it's a very big spoiler for people who played Final Fantasy VII, the original. I think I lucked out. Like, I know, I was like, this is the last time I'm fighting it. Like, it was another one of those things. I told you this on our first episode with Knack, where I was like, I'm going to open this chest one more fucking time. And if it's not in there, I'm deleting this app. And that's literally what I was doing with this boss. And his health was very tiny. And what happens is, after his second phase, he becomes enraged. And then he starts to regenerate his health. And then he insta-kills you. So, best to just start the fight over after the second fucking phase. Because you can't win. He just starts going berserk. You can try to hit him as many times as possible to keep his health low. He'll do the thing. You have one character survive, and then you do one more attempt. And during the second phase, while he was down, he was stunned, I was like, all right, I have nothing left. I'm not doing enough damage. I summoned a summon, which is like a god character that fucking comes in, and it annihilated him. He had like a quarter of health left, and I'm telling you, whenever I'm doing all of my max damage as possible, like, I should have taken maybe a quarter of the quarter. Like, I'm doing such minimal damage that I just am like, this is fucking outrageous. Like, why is his health so high, and then they're limiting me? I just was starting to get to this point where I'm like, I am done. I can't waste any more time on this trophy when I could be playing other games. And, we're going to go into this on the topic of the table, like, that mindset of, as a achievement trophy hunter, what the hell is the point when you can't do it? Like, when do you quit? And I summoned in this boss, and it fucking killed him. I popped the trophy. I ran around my apartment like I was, like, on top of the world. I was like, I can't believe I fucking did it. I can't believe I fucking did it. And so I was done with the Yuffie DLC, and I was like, oh, what am I going to play next? And so I jumped into Watch Dogs Legion. And it was late at night. I think it may have been 11 or 12 o'clock. And I was like, I'm not going to start a new game. I have to work tomorrow. I don't want to just play for a little bit. Actually, this was before I went to Iowa. Okay? So I was like, I'm not working tomorrow, but I'm leaving early. And I don't want to play 1 hour of this game, get one trophy, and then go on the road. And I'm going to be thinking about the game that I want to play the entire time. Not going to start it. So then I came back, and I was tired because I know, I told you that I was staying up till 3 a.m. like drinking and fucking partying and having a great time out there. And then I was collapsed. I slept for like 2 or 3 days, and I went back to work, and then I came home from work, and I started, and then I couldn't bring myself to start the game. Okay? So we're going to just transition from what we've been playing now right onto the topic of the table, because this is where I start having a bunch of that mindset that I was just talking about during Final Fantasy VII. And I'll go ahead and ask you, like, have you ever been stalled from starting a game because you're afraid of, like, you looked at the guide and you're like, oh shit, I have to focus at the beginning or I'm going to miss something? Because for Watch Dogs, there's this trophy where you need to get a video game designer, and they say that on the guide, like, pay attention to this first part. You're going to be able to choose a character, and you can get a video game designer there. And so I was like, ooh, I don't want to miss it. And then I didn't play it for, like, a night that I totally could have. I could have sat down with, like, 3 or 4 hours of it. And I did not get the video guy, and I'm like, all right, time to go. Like, I just want to play a video game again. I've been gone out of town. I came back. I was tired. I'm finally back to me. I want to play video games. So I just pushed past it, and I had a permadeath on. And this game has an update where you can play as Wrench or Aiden Pierce from the first one. And Wrench is like one of my favorite characters. I actually have a figure of him sitting right here in front of me. If I was on camera, I would have showed it off. I freaking love Wrench. I think he's a great character, and it's been awesome, like, to play as him. And I picked it up, and I forgot that I was on permadeath, and Wrench died. And it was like, I cannot get him back. He's done. And I'm like, that's not canon. That's not canon. Because there's a DLC where he's alive later. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to restart. So I lost about 2 hours of progress. And I got back to that screen again where the game was telling me, or the guide was saying, you might get a video game designer there. Didn't get it again. And I was like, okay, I just have this nightmare scenario because of Watch Dogs 2. On Watch Dogs 2, there was this fucking awful trophy or achievement. Did you play Watch Dogs 2?
Yeah, I played Watch Dogs and Watch Dogs 2. They're okay. I'm not in a
Did you platinum it or complete it?
no. I
Okay.
got close in both games.
Yeah, I got close in Watch Dogs 1, and then in Watch Dogs 2, there's a fucking awful trophy that I was pulling my hair out with because you needed to take a selfie with someone puking on the pier.
Yeah, I didn't get that one either.
And
That one is really annoying.
it's so fucking stupid. And I thought this was another one of those. That's how the guide was like the guide writer was writing it. Was like, "Hey, you need to get this cuz when you scan people's occupations, it's random. So there's like a high RNG chance or like a low RNG chance of you getting the video game designer. Or yeah, I think that's what it is. Video game designer, which is you need to recruit them to your team. And I'm like, fuck. It's going to be another fucking puking pier trophy where I'm running all around this area searching every fucking person and none of them are going to be a video game designer. But guess what? I'm fucking lucky and I found one and I recruited them within my first I think I've been playing for 8 hours, and I think it was in my first 5 hours that I got a video game designer. I just saw him on the street, and I was like, oh, hey, hell yeah. Took him, recruited him. It was popped the trophy real easy, and I'm like, I don't have to worry about that at all. And I picked a different guide, like somebody else who wrote a different guide, and it was so much better. And this was before I started. I should mention that. So I read one guide. It stressed me out. I didn't start the game one night. I move on to the next night. I chose a different guide, and the person's like, enjoy the story. Like, sit back, play this game. You don't have to worry about anything. I'm like, damn, I wish I read this guy's guide first, because the other guy stressed me out. This guy is like making me feel really good about this game, and I've sat down and I've been relaxing and playing it, and now I'm on my way to the fucking platinum. I know it. And it's just like, it all depends on how someone writes the guide, and it just wasn't written very well, I think, on the power picks. So I just kind of started having these thoughts, and this, again, I've said it like 5 times, but this is the topic on the table, is so much of diving into why we play games the way we do and kind of breaking open what makes us tick. And I brought this to a completionist Discord that I'm a part of, and I got some feedback from a lot of people, and I'm just like gonna throw in different perspectives while we're talking, because I think that the way we play is not normal. Like, it makes some casual people or some even like other hardcore gamers, like when they hear what we're doing and how much we suffer sometimes, they're like, why the fuck do you play that way if it doesn't like make you happy? And it's such an odd thing to try to like argue with someone, because it's like you either have a problem, like they have a problem with you playing the game that way, which play the game how you want, that can be the end of the argument and it's all over. But my whole point is like, why do we do this if there's nothing in it? And for me, I have like all of these answers. So let's jump into it and go one at a time, okay? So with you had, and I wrote this down while you were talking because I was like, are you fucking serious? So there's, for one specific trophy or achievement, is there a time limit on how long you should spend on it?
I mean, it depends on the game, right?
Right.
Like,
and on Darkest Dungeon, you said you had like an achievement that took a few days. Is that correct?
Yeah. It took about 2 days.
See?
Of, like, dedicated playing. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, yeah, it depends on the game, right? Because if you're not enjoying the game enough, then I'll drop it after a certain level of tedium. But if I really love the game, I'll spend like I'd probably spend like 200 hours doing like the same thing over and over again until it works. But it just depends on the. I mean, I enjoy. It's not just for me. It's not just about the achievement. It's about mastering the game as well, in the sense of just getting better and better at it. But again, it depends on the game and it depends on the achievement, because there's some achievements where you just need like really good RNG, and at that point it can become not fun and you're not actually learning anything. You're essentially just functioning like a computer. You're just like doing another dice roll and seeing if you win this time, and that stuff I'll have less patience for. But for things that I can change and where it's like a player skill thing, I think if I like the game enough, I'd keep going at it until I get it.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I was with Final Fantasy VII Remake. Like fighting those bosses, it was so interesting because even though I was pulling my hair out and banging my head against the wall, I'm looking back at those days like very fondly. I'm thinking about how fucking challenging that was and how fucking fun it was. I love that combat. It's so interesting. And yes, I was doing the same thing over and over again, but I could fucking say I did that. Like, I am part of the very few people who did that because it is so fucking difficult. Like, I just dare anyone who has that game to go fucking try it on hard. You're going to get annihilated. Look up guides. Try it. It's hard. It is not easy. Like, there was some base trophies that in the Final Fantasy VII original list, Final Fantasy VII Remake original list, where one of the bosses is actually the same. So, in doing it, you did it during the base, and now they're like, all right, here's 2.0. So you're going to do it again on the DLC with different characters. And the first time was not near as hard. It makes it look easy. And then you go into the DLC and you try it again, it's so much fucking harder. But once you get past the very first part, so the way that it's worked is it's structured in 3 rounds. Round 1, you have a giant boss, and then that boss summons another boss. And you take out those 2 bosses and you move on to the second round. And then it's one of the summons that you have and you're fighting against it this time. And then round 3, like a giant robot. And they all have a ton of health. And it's like, how the fuck am I going to survive all of them? But at least you get like 50% health and 50% magic power back, or magic points, every single time that you move on around. And all I had to do, not even fronting, like I couldn't get past the first round. And so it's kind of like you're banging your head against the wall, and it's like, I can't even get past the first round, and they expect me to do this 2 more times. How am I going to do this 2 more times? And I got past the first round, and I wiped out the next 2 bosses without dying. Like, first try, and that for me was like, all right, we're moving on. Like, I fucking beat the first part, which was I was struggling a lot with. You know what I had to do? So I'm beating this boss, and it's not that big of a deal. I was telling you about how you about 3 minutes in, the boss does a big fucking move, and it'll kill everyone. And the boss kept doing that to me, and I was getting pissed off. And eventually, I learned that I can take one of the elemental materias, and I can pair it with an element. And if you do that on armor, then you can regenerate. You can regenerate health. So the second boss that spawns in is a fire boss. And when that boss was attacking me, I was getting regenerated. My health was getting regenerated. So literally couldn't die. And I was like, okay, that's the strategy. If I can't die and everybody else dies, I just get them back up. We're fine. That's just how it works. And so once I figured that out, it was like 1 try, I'm done. I fucking annihilated everything. And the last boss is also a fire. Like the 3rd round boss is also fire element. So he would do a fire attack, and I would just stand in the fire and regenerate my health. And I was like, because otherwise, if I didn't have that on, I'm like trying to avoid the fire on the ground. It's like little lava pits. And I'm like, oh fuck, I touched it, and now I'm burning or I'm hurt. And it's like, this is just so fucking difficult. But now that I am resistant to fire, I'm just going to play as one character and just cast all the spells until this fucking guy dies. And it was all about strategy, and it felt really good. But then the next boss, like, I was like, why did they design it this way? His health was going down so little, and there was no element that I could really do anything with. And it just seemed like luck. And that's where the RNG conversation comes in. And I was going to give up. I knew there's a time to give up. And I think that every trophy hunter and achievement hunter has their limit. And there is a time to give up. And it's okay, because I think recently, I gave up on Assassin's Creed. Remember, about 2 weeks ago, I was doing the Assassin's Creed challenges, and I just was like, nah, I'm not gonna do that anymore, because they seem pretty broken. They're broken, and it's not a good use of my time. And I moved on, and I've played 3 games since then. I played Resident Evil 8. I've played Final Fantasy VII Remake DLC, and now I am in the middle of Watch Dogs. I could still be, in the middle of Resident Evil 8 by just sticking to one trophy that would have taken me 15 hours plus. It's like, there's just sometimes where I draw that line. I have to draw that line and be like, I can't get the completion, and that's fine. It's fine. I still had fun trying, and that's what matters. But it's just something that I've been thinking about a lot more and more lately. And this idea where I'm hindered by trophies or achievements. And again, I love playing this way. It's my favorite thing to do. Trophy hunt. I can't wait to fucking play Watch Dogs because I'm going to try to do the weird shit that they're going to ask me to do. Like earlier today, I took down 5 people with a professional hitman. And that was fun. That was really fun and challenging. I didn't even look up a guide. I just kind of was like, can I do it? And I did it. Like, that's really fun. But other people are saying, like, someone said, I may not like the certain things I'm doing all the time for a trophy, but I'm still happy with it. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't do it anymore. And I think that's, like, kind of a big moral of the story is, like, if you don't like it, then don't do it. But I think that a lot of people who start trophy hunting, they're like, why am I doing this? And then they see their numbers going up and they're like, oh, it's really, really rewarding. And, here's another person said, you have to be willing to put up with a certain level of frustration in order to stick to things when they get difficult or annoying. But balancing that with knowing when that goes too far and the elements make the game an overall bad experience, that's when you got to stop. And it's like, that is when you have to stop. Maybe you can revisit. I think that that's where it gets a little muddled with the time limit on one specific trophy. Because if you think about it, and, this goes into every single trophy list. If you're playing a game on the hardest difficulty, which you're doing this with Darkest Dungeon this week, you're going for DLC additional content achievements, aren't you?
Yep.
While you're going for the hardest difficulty. If you took the hardest difficulty achievement by itself, think about how many hours that is. Maybe 20 to 40, right?
Yeah, the hardest, for Darkest Dungeon, it's a weird case because the DLC I'm playing adds a new hardest difficulty as well. So it combines with the DLC is called the Crimson Curse, and it's about vampires, and then the hardest difficulty is Blood Moon. And if you don't have the DLC enabled, the hardest difficulty is Stygian instead, or Stygian instead. And the difference is it gives you more weeks and more deaths to beat the game if you're doing it with the DLC, because they know that the DLC is harder than if you play it without the DLC.
Right. So with that DLC trophy with the new hardest difficulty, my point was doing that just for that achievement is very long, but you're doing other things in between that playthrough. So it's worth it. So when you're just going for one thing and there's nothing else and that's all there is, I think there is a time limit. And for me, it's probably 10 to 12 hours. And then I'm fucking out. Because, like I said, I could play something else. Do you have a time limit like that, do you think?
No, I mean, I kind of feel like we're talking in circles a little bit right now. But, I think as I said earlier, it depends. It totally depends on the game and the achievement. It's not something I'd not be prescriptive towards any specific time periods or anything like that.
Have you ever dodged a list? You looked at the guide? We talked about, I mentioned briefly Microsoft Flight Simulator. I will never play that game on Xbox or on my main account at least. That list is extremely difficult. You have to be very good at flight simulators, and then you also have to play for thousands and thousands of hours. Yikes.
I mean, there's literally an achievement to get 1,000 flight hours. So, even if somehow you did everything else in under 1,000 hours, you'd still have to play for 1,000 hours. So, there's that's an example of a game where I will. I'll probably play it on Steam, if anything, or on a different gamer tag, because I wouldn't want to get an achievement and then feel like I have to fully commit to it.
I have burner accounts too for games that I want to play, and I don't want to commit any kind of trophy list to my main account. I have a multiplayer account for multiplayer games because I'm not going to chase multiplayer lists. I think they're terrible. I think they shouldn't even exist. Honestly, that's my opinion. I don't think any multiplayer gamer is looking at the trophy list going, oh yeah, I can't wait to try to do these. They're just fucking playing the multiplayer game and it's popping trophies. And then eventually they look occasionally. I would say if you look at the percentage of multiplayer games and their percentage of completions, I bet they're real low. Real low. You know what I mean?
Yeah, multiplayer achievements and trophies they're other things that I would give up on a lot quicker, definitely. I think as well it's with multiplayer stuff, it's there's a very specific moment in time where it's the best time to get those achievements, and then if you miss it, if if you're too late to the game, it's like such an uphill struggle. Or you just like, well, I mean, there's plenty of games with really good single player and pretty bad multiplayer as well. So
Yeah.
like I remember that game Singularity is a really good first person shooter, but it had a multiplayer mode bolted on with achievements, and it just sucked. So yeah, multiplayer for me, I have less patience for.
Yeah. And sorry I ranted. I ranted a long time about some of these
Yeah.
things and like where I was in the past 2 weeks. But yeah, like my cousin came in here this morning and I told him like what I was writing about, and he told me like he was like, "Do you think of your hobby now more as work?" And I was like, "Fuck no. I never ever think about trophies as work. I think I'm having a fucking great time doing it. It's some of them are challenging and definitely frustrating, but I never felt like it. If it ruins an experience, then it's probably not worth chasing." And like that's generally how it was. And there's some times where I push past that, like with not Resident Evil, with Red Dead Redemption 2. Like I put that game down. Like I played it all and I put it down, and I was like, multiplayer shit. Nope. I'm
Yeah,
not gonna do that.
if it's not fun or satisfying, then there's no point anymore. And we want to celebrate achievements and trophies as well. Of course.
Absolutely.
We've
It's
got
so much fun to do this. So much fun to do this.
yeah, we've got an achievement and trophy of the week, right?
We do.
This time, I'm excited to hear yours.
Yeah, I went for something a little different. I wanted to highlight more of a milestone. I think that's really, really fun. So I'll shout that out. Are you ready to move on to that? Or do you have
Yep.
do you have any thoughts about all of the stuff that I ranted about?
No, I think I think we covered it.
Okay.
Pretty much.
Awesome. Okay, well, I actually want to hear yours first. I think that's really exciting.
Okay. Yeah, sure. So for me, it's from a game I haven't played yet, which is interesting. I really want to play. There's this game that came out this week, I believe, this week or last week. It's called Death's Door. I don't know if you've heard of it. So I've heard amazing things about this game. It's an indie game. It's from the developers of Titan Souls. It's like a cute, like Zelda-like game, and everything I've seen seems wonderful, from like the gameplay to the world. And I've heard from people I respect and their opinions, that it's some people's game of the year so far.
Whoa.
It's had amazing reviews. It's got an 88 on OpenCritic, so it's got like it's like above like Returnal and like Ratchet and Clank and
Holy shit.
and Resident Evil and all this. Yeah, 97% of critics recommend it. So like it's come out of nowhere. It's a Devolver Digital game, and it's on Xbox and PC. It's not on Game Pass, sadly, which because it's an Xbox and PC exclusive and not on Game Pass, I feel like basically no one's going to play it, which is a shame.
That is a shame.
So I definitely need to get to it. I've bought it, but the two achievements I really like on the list. So either my achievement of the week, you can have either of them. It has to be a Pro Gamer, which is for beating the game, and it's a play on words with crow sounding like pro, pro gamer.
That's smart. Yeah.
And then the other one is In Core Hoots, and it's for meeting 3 owls. So hoots for the owl and
Very
core.
punny trophies. Very good.
Yeah, it's good onomatopoeia. So yeah, they're pretty bad puns, but it just seems like a game that has so much like love and attention into even the achievement names and the achievement list. And I've heard from what I've heard about the game that extends into the game itself. So I'm using these achievements of the week to get more attention to it, and to also like force myself to play it and report back about the game at some point.
That's really cool.
So yeah. What's your trophy of the week?
My trophy of the week is a trophy called I'm the Warden Now. It's from Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. And the reason that I chose this is because I recently hit a milestone on trophies, and I was like, that is really cool. I definitely want to look and see what the trophy was and what game I was playing when it happened. And that's my 11,000th trophy. And I was like, holy shit. I have been doing this for so long. I have 11,000 trophies. I think I have like 11,100 and something. And I'm just like, dude, that is That is awesome. I feel like in the past couple years, they've really skyrocketed. I feel like I went from like maybe 6,000 up to where I am now, like to 11,000, and just in a couple years.
Yeah, I mean,
Awesome.
yeah, I feel like achievements definitely come like a lot faster now than they used to. But yeah, no, that's a great milestone and a great achievement. I love tracking my stats like that as well sometimes. And
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know when my next milestone is, but I'll have to keep an eye out.
Yeah, and I didn't explain the trophy because it's like I think it's a spoiler story trophy, and so I was like,
Okay.
ooh, I don't want to go into detail if people haven't played it. So that's all like just the name and what game, and it. I mean that I really love the Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart trophy list. I had a lot of fun. I don't know if we talked about it where I think that this is something that we really should have discussed because there's a there's a huge debate of like, is it a good trophy list or a bad trophy list because it's accessible, like it's an easier one. You don't have to collect all the collectibles in the game. You don't have to max out, fully upgrade all your weapons. You don't even have to do a full new game plus. You just have to start it, I think. And like it makes this game that's really good end very soon. So I maxed out all my weapons because I freaking was loving the game and I thought that it was just like really, really fun. And if there's DLC, I think it'd be really fun to have all my stuff maxed out going into it. But it's just this idea that you don't have to even collect everything to get the platinum. And I think a lot of people are like, this is super easy, but it's also like a kind of a kid's game. So like, how do you feel about that?
I mean, I I don't think necessarily. I mean, it's difficult, right? I think that if it depends on the type of game, but also like if the game has really satisfying gameplay, then you definitely want there to be an achievement or a trophy that like puts those skills to the test, like that forces you to engage with the mechanics. I think that like it I don't know. It's like
I know what you mean. And they
you
have
know,
some of
if a
those.
game has like yeah, like if a game has like a dodge in it, right? Like
Right.
you want to make it so that when you play the game or when you like get yeah, not necessarily get an achievement, but just when you play the game that you have to use the mechanic. You don't just ignore it, right? So I feel like if a list is too easy, it can sort of spoil some of the fun or some of the potential. But you know, there's plenty of it, like the list being easy or hard on its own isn't what makes it good either. It like it has to be right for the game and it has to be inventive and interesting as well, I think. You know, if it's just like a by the numbers like standard list where you've seen it like 1,000 times before, it's less interesting than if they have you know, if they have some cool like Easter egg achievements or trophies or something, or something that really adds to the game and makes it more compelling than it was originally. So, you know, I don't think that's necessarily tied to difficulty, but in terms of getting you to use the mechanics of the game and to get really skilled at the game, I think there's definitely a place for those sorts of achievements and trophies, and it should be praised and applauded.
Right. And you know, I pulled up the trophy list here, and there are different skilled trophies that are pretty traditional, like kill 10 enemies with returning shots from a certain weapon, kill 2 enemies with a single ricochet round. Like these are just like little fun things, and the one that like a lot of people struggled with because I think it was a little bit buggy and a little bit hard was there was a weapon with a shield, and when you hold the shield up, it will absorb projectiles, and then you can shoot it back out and kill an enemy. But if you're too close, the shield has like a shotgun kind of explosion. So you'll shoot out the shield and not the projectiles, and they want you to kill the enemies with the projectiles, not the shield. And so you have to stand really far back. And I feel like this was a little bit more challenging. Like this was definitely one of the more challenging trophies. You have to stand really far back and make sure the projectiles are hitting the enemies and not your shield. And that was probably the most difficult thing in the game. And it wasn't really hard. Like I had a good time with the trophy list. I wasn't mad at it. I think that sometimes it's good to have a game that's very accessible and easy. Like holy fuck, dude. On PlayStation, it has an 18% platinum rate. And on the PSN profiles, the tracking of all the people who have gotten it, there's 17,000 out of 26,000. And that's 65.73% of the people tracking the trophies got it. So it shows you just how easy it is. Like, it's not a hard one at all.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's like getting close to the numbers you see from like the almost like the those like easy achievement games. Like it's like in the middle between like a I guess like a quote unquote regular game and like one of those games where it's like 60% of people or like 80% of people have all the achievements. It's like in between the two.
According to the website, 2/3 of the people on the website have the platinum. Like,
yeah, that's crazy. I mean, just from like not knowing the list, but just looking at those percentages, it's probably like a little too easy. Like probably, but yeah, it's not like in itself. The difficulty isn't necessarily a problem.
No,
but yeah,
like
I get what you mean.
2 out of 10 difficulty, not hard at all. But that's really it. Besides we had some write-ins on the very first episode for our proudest completions, and these are some of your proudest completions. Justin VAD wrote in, and his top 2, his number 2 is NHL 16, and he said, it's one of my rarest trophies simply due to 2 trophies. One requires you to be the top of the online ladder at the end of the season and win a bazillion online games is basically what he was saying. Collect every card from every hockey team in the game, which is a lot. So that's why he's proud of that one. And then his number 1 is Fortnite, which I would be like, probably not proud of that. But then he goes on and says, not a lot to say. 1,300 hours of gameplay, plus probably a 6 to 7 out of 10 difficulty. He said many a podcast were listened to while grinding this game. He made a lot of friends. Dude, me either.
I would never be, because that game is so difficult and like it's so time consuming to complete. If I had that, I'd be really proud of it, to be honest. Because
I think so too.
It's not the BR mode either. It's the like save the world.
Yes, and that's what he goes on to say. He said it made a lot of friends along the way. We boosted 500,000 builds, over 1,000 matchmaking games, and 10,000 survivor saved. What the fuck, dude? That's so much. Like, that is so much. Oh man. So yeah, and then Jin comes in on the comments, and he said, I'd say my proudest completion would be Red Dead Redemption 2, right up there with me. He says I have too much love for that game. Over a good 700 hours clocked in, and about 8 playthroughs. Insanely good. Holy shit, dude! I didn't even play the game that long. I feel like mine was a little over 200, and that was like fucking.
Yeah,
long.
I mean, eight playthroughs seems ridiculous. That's crazy.
A lot. It's a lot. Oh man. Well, do you have anything to add, AJ? Any final thoughts?
Oh, I mean, I'm happy about the write-ins. The write-ins were really interesting. I'm hoping everything is returning to normal in terms of my computer and my process and everything. Those are my final thoughts. Hopefully things are smoother from now on.
Yeah, it felt really good to sit back down and record again. Like I was ready for it. All right, that's gonna be it for this episode. Thanks for listening. Have a good one. Peace out.
See ya.